Hey guys, welcome back to Latest on Sports Podcast. We recently rebranded, and one of the main reasons is for this video right here. We have a very, very special guest today.
Yeah, we've got Montana legend, 14-year NFL veteran, and Super Bowl winning coach, Tim Hauck. Coach Hauck, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm back in the state and hanging out at Bitterroot Lake, so things are all good.
Right on. Perfect. All right, so we'll just jump right into this. The first question we've got here is coming out of high school, you were an all-state track star, a state pole vault champion, a star basketball player, quarterback, and defensive back. Why did you choose to play football at Division III school?
Well, I'll tell you what, football was always my first love. I did have some people telling me I should go play college basketball, and I absolutely love pole vaulting. It was kind of my passion in high school, but when it came down to making that decision, football was always my love. And whether it was a D3 school or going through a D1 school, that is what I wanted to do.
For sure. And so with your other sports that you played, did you get any offers to play other sports at higher levels?
No, it was all basically the same level. Whether it was basketball or track, and I had a couple of places that wanted me to do multiple sports. And actually, when I went to Pacific in Oregon, I thought I was going to actually pole vault and play football. And then when you get into college, you realize that the time you have for school and class and then the sport itself, it gets a little overwhelming at times. Yeah. So it was good for me to just focus on the football side.
Yeah, a lot of commitment.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. You can, when you go through it, you can kind of relate to these college athletes and what they actually have to go through.
All right, so moving on. Being an all-conference safety as a freshman at Forest Grove, how confident were you in your ability to play at the next level of college football?
Well, it's kind of funny because when our season was over and I made the all-conference team there, I was happy playing there. But I had always wanted to play at the University of Montana, and that was always my dream and my goal. And I went back and forth with my father, who was a long-time head high school coach in the state of Montana. And between the two of us, we he didn't think I should transfer. He thought I should wait a year, and I didn't know. So we called my brother, who was at Montana at the time, and he convinced me that I should come back and play.
It's awesome. So, if any of you guys have ever watched Coach Hauck's highlights, you'll know that he's quite the hitter. So much so that while at college, he earned the nickname Hitter. You were a 3-time Golden Helmet Award winner, which is basically just given to the biggest and best, gnarliest hitter at the school. So, who first gave you the nickname Hitter, and how did it stick with you for so long?
Well, let's put it this way. I always took a lot of pride in being a little guy that could deliver a blow.
Yeah.
It kind of made ball fun for me because I got to do things out on the football field that in real life you can't really do outside the lines. And then the nickname came. I was roommates with Brad Salonen, and his brother Brian played for the Cowboys for quite a few years, and he was back one summer, and we were watching some tape, and he said he just started calling me Hitter, and it stuck. And all my friends from that point on, that was that was the nickname. It was rarely Tim, but it was always Hitter. And at this point in life, it still is with some of my friends. They don't call and say, "Hey Tim, what's up?" They say, "Hey Hitter, what's going on?"
That's
so
awesome.
It's kind of cool to have that nickname and take some pride in it.
Sure. So, basically every little kid dreams of being an NFL player. I know for me, when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was become a pro football player. But at some point for almost everybody, that dream dies. For me, it was probably 6th or 7th grade. At what point for you did the dream of being an NFL player become a rational future for you?
Well, I'm like the rest of everybody else. So when I was 4 or 5, I was playing with older kids and wearing Raiders 00 jersey, who was Jim Otto. I thought I was going to be a center and a middle linebacker. But the size thing didn't ever come around for that. I think when I won the defensive MVP my junior year at Montana for the Big Sky Conference, it's when I really realized that maybe I might have a shot. to have an opportunity to go to the next level. And I was dedicated, but I think I took it to the next level where I was never going to look back and say, yeah, I wish I would have done that. I would have had a better chance if I would have done that. I was all in at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to your football or NFL career, what was your undrafted free agent process like for you, and why did you choose New England?
Well, it was crazy. My agent, who was Ken Steninger at the time, he was telling me I was probably going to be drafted anywhere from the 4th to the 7th round, and we actually had 12 rounds at that point. And I went undrafted. I was semi-crushed at that point.
I bet.
But right after the draft, I had about 10 teams call and try to sign me. And I chose New England basically because their roster was getting old. They'd gone to the Super Bowl in 1985. And I thought it was the best opportunity for me to go make their roster and actually be able to make that first step and get on a roster and make a team.
Yeah, so when we talked to Cole Anderson just about a month and a half ago, he was talking to us about the big difference in college football to the NFL is the business side. Did you notice that too, becoming an undrafted free agent?
You guys are breaking up a little bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay. It was a big step. Plus, you walk into that locker room and you're looking at guys you've watched play your whole life, and you start questioning whether you belong there or not. And that's where you really got to just focus on what you're doing and doing your job and doing it well, and not getting caught up in who the veterans are and what the numbers game is and so forth. And it was. I had to elevate my game. There's no doubt about it. But I think early on in that first training camp, I made an impression and was able to follow through and continue my career at that point.
So moving on with what you just said, you got to play with some amazing players such as Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. You got to play alongside Hall of Famer Brian Dawkins. So who's some of the best teammates you played with?
Like you said, I had some amazing teammates. One guy who was a older veteran when I came into the locker room in New England was Steve Grogan. I just watched the way he carried himself. It was his final year of his career, and his work ethic. And he was probably 38 years old at that point. And then John Elway was flat out amazing. The way he handled guys and the way he took charge and the way he led, not so much vocally, but by example. It was pretty cool to watch those guys and the way they handled themselves. And then now you see them in the Hall of Fame. And it's fun for me to look back and look at the guys I played with and where they ended up.
I think that's interesting because a lot of the guys that play with Elway, when you talk about him, just about Elway, one thing that they always talk about is not only like his leadership on the field, but how great of a teammate he is. So I think it's interesting to see how consistent the answer is with Elway. It proves a lot about his character.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And he was all ball. His dad obviously was a coach. He grew up around it, and then had success early in his career, and he just took it to the next level. I was with Peyton really early in his career, so I really didn't see that side of him. I heard that about him later in his career. He was still trying to feel his way when I was with him early in his career. But Favre was always a guy on the field that just took charge. I mean, he just says, you know what, I'm taking this thing over. You guys follow me. and that was fun to watch too. They're all a little bit different, but they all have similar characters of being able to lead in their own way.
Yep.
So you touched on this a little bit earlier, but how does a former D3 kid from Montana have a successful 14-year career in the NFL?
Tell us your secrets.
Well, I really think mine was just attitude for one, and work ethic was the other. I wasn't going to let anybody outwork me. And then my approach to the game was never to back down. And I think a lot of that was the reason I could make it early in my career. And then obviously I was blessed with health, good health. I didn't have too many injuries that set me back. There was probably Denver was probably the worst time in my career that I got down and had a few things go wrong physically that hurt me a little bit, but I bounced back after those. And the same thing, if you figure out how to grind through small things and keep your mind focused on the things that matter, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, our coach always tells us, don't let the small setbacks define you, so it's a great answer. Moving on, outside of the NFL career, was coaching something you always knew that you wanted to do?
You know what? It's so funny because my dad was a head high school coach for 30 years in Big Timber. My uncle was a head high school coach and college coach, and obviously my brothers had a pretty successful coaching career so far. Since I was a little kid, I said I was going to coach. I was going to be a football coach. And my mom always said no. My dad just laughed. And after I got done playing 13 years in the league, I think I looked at the time those guys put in. I said, no way am I going to get into coaching. And then it had just happened that my brother got hired at Montana the year I retired. And he had a guy retire on him late his second year, going into his second year at Montana. And he said, hey, you got to come help me out. And I said, I'll give it a shot. And it's addicting. I ended up loving it and still grinding through it right now. And it's a nice way to make a living.
For sure. So, being in the coaching industry right now, you're the safeties coach. Do you plan on maybe like moving up to a coordinator position or even becoming a head coach one day? Or are you kind of just happy coaching the position that you played?
You know what? I love coaching the safeties. And I always say I'm not very smart if I can't handle the safety position right now because I've been around it so much and played it so much. I think early in my career I probably had goals of being a defensive coordinator, but I'm really content doing what I'm doing. I like mentoring young guys. I like working with the veterans because I learn from them every single day, and I'm still learning. And it is really fun working with amazing athletes and being able to learn and work with these guys.
Yeah, that job sounds like so much fun. Moving on, when you were a coach, as you touched on earlier, you returned to Montana, the college that you played at, and you are currently coaching for the NFL team, or one of the NFL teams you played with. What's it like being able to return to the school and team that you played with as a coach?
Well, I'll tell you what, Philly really embraced me as a player, the community. I think they liked the hard-nosed, blue-collar approach. And so it became a second home for me. And for me to be able to go back and work with Doug Peterson, who was a teammate of mine, has been a lot of fun. There's people in the building, especially on the business side, but even on the scouting side, and our GM was there when I was there playing. It's fun to see those people still there. It's different than a lot of places I've been in the NFL because it's a pretty tight-knit group. You talk about family as a football team. That place really does preach and live by that motto of family.
So, real quick, I have a quick question. I don't know if you knew this. I don't know why you would know it, but I'm a Colts fan. Obviously, their head coach is Frank Reich. He was the offensive coordinator in Philly. What are your thoughts on Frank? I mean, I hear a lot of good news about him. I mean, you coached with him, so I just want to, as my Colts heart is telling me, I just want to hear more about him.
Hey, you're breaking up, guys. I didn't catch that one. I caught the Colts and Frank. Obviously, I worked with him our Super Bowl year, and what an amazing guy. He's another guy that is going to beat the odds as a backup quarterback. Became a starter, and he's kind of worked his way to the top. He's a good coach. Both on and off the field, I respect him so much on the field. He preaches, and I think they'll hold.
Yeah.
It should be.
That
Okay.
was crazy. That was crazy. It was just all of a sudden it got choppy.
Yeah, that's what we heard too.
Well, it's really clear now, so we can keep on going. So we're gonna start right into it. How can you describe winning your Super Bowl as a coach?
Well, it's crazy because I was so close as a player a few times and played on some really good teams, and it was always so disappointing that you almost felt after all those years like it's just not going to happen. And to go back as a coach for the Eagles and actually beat the Patriots in that Super Bowl, man, it was one of the best feelings ever in my lifetime. And I was able to reach a goal that I hadn't been able to reach, and it made all the work and time I put in worth it.
And I mean, that Super Bowl was crazy. The riots in downtown Philly, they had to like grease up the lamppost so people would stop climbing on it. So I'm sure that the people were thrilled when you got back. That must have been quite the experience.
Oh my gosh, it was funny because when we flew into Philly, I go, well, city looks like it's still standing. I can still hear them. And then we had the parade, and it was just masses of people. It was flat out amazing. And those people are starved. They were starved for a Super Bowl win. They never had one. I still have people come up to me and say, thank you for getting us that win. And it's pretty special.
Yeah, and I mean, to be a DB's coach versus Tom Brady in a Super Bowl, I mean, it doesn't get much more difficult than that. So.
Oh, no, they definitely make it difficult for you.
Yeah.
And up until the last Hail Mary threw, I didn't know if we were going to come away with the win. That last play seemed like it took 30 minutes for that ball to hit the ground.
Seriously.
Sure did.
So, moving on to the draft this year, you guys took Kayvon Wallace, an incredibly talented safety from Clemson in the 4th round. What are your thoughts on Kayvon as a player? And are you just excited as a safeties coach to get new guys like that who have such success at great schools?
Yeah, you know, we haven't drafted a lot of safeties since I have been there, and I think he's the highest draft pick as the 4th rounder that we have taken, and he's a very versatile young man. He's going to have his work cut out for him. We've got a pretty talented secondary, and hopefully he comes along fast and is able to make a difference this coming season.
Yeah, and so since you guys drafted Kayvon, I just want to know your kind of role in the draft process. Do you have any say or kind of role in the process? Are you ever asked to watch film on safeties and give your thoughts, or is that all up to the scouting department?
No, it's kind of an interesting process. Every team's different, and we all put in our input. We all turn in reports. We go on the road and evaluate these guys every winter and spring. And once we put it all together, then the GM and our head of player personnel, they kind of put together the draft board, and then they select them how they see fit.
So you do have a role in that, then.
Then we go coach them.
That's awesome.
Okay, so how has rookie camp training and meetings gone so far in the season given the coronavirus?
Say one more time.
Yeah. How has rookie camp and training and meetings how have they gone this season due to
With
the complications? Yeah.
It has been unique. Nothing I've ever experienced before. Actually, we were going out to evaluate draft picks. Gonna hit the road. Head coach called us all in and said, "You're not going on the road. This coronavirus is. We're going to keep you in the office." The next day, he came in and said, "We're closing the building." And this was middle of March, and we all went our own ways and figured out how to conduct meetings virtually, which has been an interesting process, but it's been nice. I've been able to do it from Montana, which has been a huge positive because I love being at home. And just keeping the guys involved and taking part and not losing interest has been the biggest challenge. And I think our guys did a great job. I think by the time we get back to training camp, they're going to be ready to go. And I'm looking forward to the season.
All right, so our last question for you. Do you have any advice for those who want to go into coaching and scouting? I mean, obviously you kind of had a different approach You came as a player to come back for coaches or to coach for organizations that you had played for. But do you have any pieces of advice for people who want to start out in the coaching and scouting career path?
Yeah, I just think, as in any business, if that's what you want to do, you got to be willing to start out at the lower rungs of the business and just bust your tail. Put in more hours, outwork everybody around you, and somebody's going to notice that. And they're going to hire you because you're good at what you do and you work hard at it. And it's probably the same as a player. I really think as long as you don't look back in life and say, I wish I would have worked harder, or I wish I would have done a little more of this or a little more of that, you're going to be just fine.
All right. So that's all the questions we have for you, but I have something kind of interesting to say. While I was doing my research on your history of football and all this stuff, I actually found, according to famous birthdays, now this is kind of random, totally off topic, but according to famous birthdays, I don't know if you knew this, but you were actually the 196,964th most famous person in the world. I don't know. You're actually in the top 0.0025%. So I don't know if you have a comment on that, but I found it kind of interesting while I was doing research.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I've never heard that before. And, I guess I'm just a lucky guy. Let's put it that way. I'm lucky to be in Montana. I was lucky to play in the NFL. Lucky to coach in the NFL. It's been a pretty good life so far. Let's keep it going.
Yeah, for sure. I was just hoping maybe you'd find that somewhat interesting. Oh, you want to close?
Well, you guys do good research. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Coach, thanks so much for being on our podcast and answering some questions. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I enjoyed it, fellas. Thank you so much for calling me and letting me have a great conversation with you guys, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, and best of luck to you guys in the future. Hopefully you guys can do some good work, because that team's young and it's kind of exciting. So we're rooting for you.
I appreciate it. Let's go Eagles, go Grizzlies.
Yep, all right. See ya. All right. So that concludes that interview. That was a pretty fun one. Coach Hauck seems like a pretty laid-back, kind of funny
Very
guy.
good talker.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have to edit out some parts.
Yeah.
'Cause we got a little choppy.
Yeah, you guys probably won't hear it, but we lost connection at some point. He might have been out on the river fishing. I don't really know.
That's pretty cool.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, Coach Hauck, awesome guy, fun to talk with. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you guys like our rebranding. We actually are on Twitter now at @LOS_podcast. Follow us there.
Yes, sir.
Also follow us on Instagram. What is their Instagram? I think it's no space. It's just Latest on Sports Podcast. So be sure you guys follow us there. If you like the video, leave a like. Anybody you want to see us talk to, leave a comment. We'll reach out to it.
We need some ideas.
Yeah, we need some ideas. If you've got any video ideas, any topics you want us to talk about, any players you want us to reach out to, just let us know. We'll try to get that done for you guys. So, yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate your time.